Alright, so I'm going to show how to replace the screen on this MacBook Air model A1466. So first what you want to do is get a Pentalobe 1.2. You also need a T5 and a T8. Okay, so take the Pentalobe 1.2 and just remove all the screws from the bottom. You do want to keep them in order because they are different sizes and lengths. The middle two I believe are long, and then I think the rest are the same, but either way, I don't like mixing up the screws. I like to put the screws back where I got them. So if I pulled it from this hole, I put it back in that hole. If I pulled it from this hole, I put it back in that hole. I don't like mixing and matching even if they are the same. Okay, so it's a good practice to do that, so that way if you do you don't want to assume the screws are the same. Sometimes they're slightly different and then it causes problems, so it's always a good idea to put back the same screws in the same place. Okay, alright, so just remove all the screws, 4 towards the back, 2 on the sides here, and then 4 more at the bottom, depending which way you're looking at it from. Okay, so my customer's waiting outside. They needed a screen replacement because the screen is cracked, but anyways, I'm going to try and do this quick. So okay. Alright, so get all those screws out. Once you do that, towards the back here, there's a gap. You just get your fingers in there, and then you can pull it up just like this. Alright, open it up. There's dust inside. I'm going to have to clean that, but for now, I'm going to just set it aside. Okay, you'll want to switch now to the T5. The Pentalobe screws are only used for the bottom cover, and you want to disconnect the battery. The other thing, make sure your computer is off. I'll actually power this on just so you can see. Okay, so power this on. I'm going to hold the Option key. There you can see the broken part of the screen. See? Okay, so I'm going to turn it off. Alright, so we need to remove the battery. The battery model, if you want to replace it, is A1466, okay? Again, this is using the T5 screwdriver. There's 2 on the corners, 2 on the bottom corners, and then 1 in the middle. So there's 5 screws total. Just remove all those screws. The hardest part with this screen replacement is the camera and the wireless antennas. You kind of have to take a few extra parts out just to get those out. Okay, but anyways, remove the 5 screws. The 2 on there and then the middle one are longer, and then the 2 down here are shorter. I don't know if there's a difference between the middle screw and the 2 back ones. I think they use a different kind of thread locker to hold the screw in place. Alright, once you do that, you want to lift the battery up. You can actually use like this area, these little flaps, to kind of help you pull it up. Okay, and then after that, go under the corner. You want to lift it up like this. Don't try and pull it backwards because it will get caught on the cable under there and you can damage it. So there's this plastic tab here. You want to grab that and then just wiggle it as you pull it, and that will release the connector. After you do that, you just rotate the battery upwards, okay, so that way it comes out like this. Okay, just like that. If you just yank it sideways like this, you can sometimes damage this cable, so just be careful with that. This is also dusty. I'm going to clean that off as well. Okay, I'm actually just going to brush it off, the dust off, into my trash can to my side. Okay, and I have a little air blower thing that I use just to get it a little cleaned up. Alright, set the battery aside. The back panel I'll do later. But yeah, okay. So after you got that, you want to open up the computer. After you remove the battery, press and hold the power button about 10 to 15 seconds, okay? And just hold it. That way it will drain any power. There's a lot less risk that you'll damage anything in your computer. Alright. Okay, so once you do that, there's the LCD connector here. So to remove that, let me zoom in. But basically, I use my fingernail and I just flip this up. You can try and pull this black tab, but usually I have a hard time with that, so I just flip this up just like that. All right, once you do that, you grab both sides with it vertical like this, and then you just use that to pull it back, okay? So that's how you remove the LCD connector. Now we're going to have to remove also the wireless antennas and everything else. Okay, so we got the wireless antennas here. You go from the tail and then you pull it up. Sometimes it helps to use from both sides. I just do that and then I pull it up like that. Okay, same thing with this one. Pinch it from the tail and then you lift from the tail. Don't try and lift from or pry from the front of the connector so you can damage it. Okay, so now we'll just lift these connectors out and then we have to pull them up, unthread them from behind, as you can see. Okay, follows those grooves. We have to just get all of those out. Okay, have to wiggle it around, pull that up just like that. Okay, we have to remove this because there's actually a screw hidden under this part of the cable. All right, so I'm going to zoom back out so you can see everything again, hopefully. Okay, so now we're going to want to remove this cable here. Okay, stop shaking, please. There we go. So to do that, I also use my fingers, but you want to pull this straight up. It's basically like a Lego snap-in connector, okay? But you just pull it up like that, okay? Same thing with this one. I like to go along the two corners opposite sides and then just pull it up, okay? So the connector just comes out just like that. There's usually an adhesive here, but this is torn, but normally it will stick on. It's really hard to remove this without tearing this. It's like a foam. Sometimes the adhesive won't be held that strong and then it will come out, but usually it won't be that easy. Okay, so anyways, we'll continue with the T5 screwdriver. We're going to want to remove the fan. So there's one screw here. Okay, there's one screw up in this corner. Okay, hopefully you can see what I'm removing. And then there's, again, don't mix up the screws. You want to keep them in order. They are different sizes and lengths. And then there's one screw down in this at the bottom of the fan. Okay. All right, once you got those 3 screws up, there's actually a little connector here. Let me see if I can zoom in and show you that. So this connector here, you want to flip that up. If you can't do it with your fingers, you can use like a little tool like this. Usually I'll just use my fingernails, but this might make it easier for you to see. This little piece here, I just flip that up, okay, just like that. And then there's an adhesive that runs along the top of the fan. So you want to peel this adhesive back, okay, right here, this foam piece or the rubber piece, and then you can lift the fan up at an angle like this. And what you do is you get your finger underneath and pinch the cable. So the cable's here. You want to pinch with your finger on the cable on the bottom side of the fan, and then you can wiggle it and pull it out. So that way you don't put too much stress on the cable. As you can see, I'm holding the cable on the back. Okay, just like that. All right, so now it's too zoomed in. I can't move my computer over that far. It's gonna knock a bunch of stuff over. Okay, so we got these connectors over here. You got the speaker connector here, and then you got the power connector here for this board, and then you also got the eyesight camera here. So we have to disconnect all of those. Okay, so first we're gonna remove the screw here that's on that little board. This has the audio headphone jack, also a USB port, and also, excuse me, and also the MagSafe connector. Okay, so we'll remove that screw. And then we'll also want to remove the screw that's hidden in this corner here. So underneath this antenna and holding this heatsink down. Actually, oh yeah, wait, no. Yeah, we don't have to remove that. That's only for removing the motherboard. Sorry. So anyways, I don't know. Oh yeah, I didn't do the video of that, but I think I have a whole bunch of the videos on this model. So if you wanted to see the motherboard disassembly or removal, you can watch my other videos or ask me for a link and I'll try and find it for you. But all the A1466 models are basically the same thing. Okay, then you got this microphone cable connector here. It disconnects just like the fan connector. So you want to lift up this piece of plastic. Usually you'll want to do this with like a plastic tool. I usually use my fingernails. I kind of cut them a little bit shorter now, so it's a bit more difficult, but you want to peel this piece up, okay, just like that. All right, once you get that tab peeled up, you want to flip that latch back just like on the fan connector, okay. All right, and then once you get that, you'll also want to remove the speaker connector. Let me zoom in to show this. So the speaker connector is a little bit tricky. You want to get as close to the connector as possible, and then you kind of like wiggle it as you kind of pry it up with your fingernail, okay? Or a pry tool, okay? Just like that. You can also use a little needle. I don't know if you can see it in this, but there's a little notch in that connector. It's not like flat, so you can get the needle underneath there. Let me point to it. So you can actually get your, where's that? Here. You can actually get like a needle underneath in that little groove here, and then you can pop it up. Okay. So anyways, we got all of that out. So now that you got those out, this microphone connector, you might not actually have to remove this. I'm going to try and do it without removing it. So I'm going to leave that latch down. For the screen, you might not actually have to remove that, because you basically have to just lift this board up to get the iSight camera cable out. Okay, so to remove, sorry, it's shaking so much. But anyways, so to remove this connector, what I do is I grab as close to the connector as possible, and then I just wiggle it up and down as I kind of pull it, and it comes out just like that. Same thing with the iSight camera, just get the wiring out. Okay, grab as close to the connector as you can. All right, you want to get as close to the connector as you can, and then just wiggle it side to side as you kind of slightly pull it, and it will come out just like that. Okay. Now that you got that, you can lift the board, this board slightly up. I'm pulling it up with my thumb, and then you can pull this wire out from underneath and out past this little groove that's holding it. Okay, just like that. Then you'll want to switch to the T8 screwdriver. Okay. For this, I like to use also thread locker when I replace the screws, but I'll show you for now. To take out these screws, what I do, or to remove the screen, let me zoom back out a bit. So what I do is I actually open up the laptop screen, okay, and then I lay the screen over my desk, just like this, okay. You want to open the screen all the way. It helps to kind of catch the screen with your legs or something, and then just undo the screws from the hinges. So there's 3 on each hinge, just remove them all, okay. Alright, just like that. Hopefully I don't have other customers on their way right now. They did tell me they were coming soon, so. But anyways, remove all 6 screws. Alright. Now that I have all this out, I'll probably want to clean the dust off real quick. So I'm going to remove the screen. So once you undo all the screws, you let the screen drop slightly and the hinges will go up. And then after that, you can kind of wiggle and lift the screen out. Okay, just like that. So I'm going to set the screen aside now, and I'm going to clean up the components, get the dust out. So I'll be back. I'm going to pause the video, and then I'll be back with the cleaned up laptop. Alright, so I'm back. Cleaned it up a little bit. Alright, just got most of the dust out. Okay, we'll set that aside. So for the screen, when you get the replacement, most of the time the hinges will be folded down. So what you'll want to do, first remove these foam things. Not every computer or screen will be packed like this, but if it is, just peel off the tape and stuff. Okay, just gonna peel this out. Alright, stick that to the little thing that they get. Okay, just like that. Sorry, I'm probably going off view of the camera, but you get the idea. Peel it off. If you have tape over this, hold down the connector while you peel this. You don't want to like yank the connector around. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now that we got that out, again, you want this to be folded open. So I use the T8 screwdriver bit, and then I just rotate it like that. Alright, so that's how I open up the hinges. Just stick the thing through the screw hole and then use that to pry it up. Okay. Alright, so now that we got that, we're going to put this back just the same way that we took it out. You do have to hold all the connectors out of the way, okay? And then you just slowly drop that in. Okay, same way you took it out. Just like that. Okay, might be a little tricky, but yeah, you just drop it in. I don't know why this side doesn't want to go in. Oh, the hinge isn't lined up right. Make sure the hinge is lined up right. As you can see on this one, this hinge cover, it's kind of the metal here sticking out, and then this side is kind of sunken in. So if that's the case, you might have to slide it around to get it back in the center. Okay, so you can slide this piece over. All right, so now I'm gonna drop it back in. Okay, just like that. Okay, and what I like to do is I like to put one screw on each side as close to the hinge as possible, the actual hinge moving mechanism. So the one's closer to the center of the computer. All right, and then just do it light, tight, semi-tight, but not really. Don't like really twist it. I just put it just so that it holds the hinge to the metal piece. Okay, so do this on both sides, but not overly tight again. This is just so you can get everything lined up. So once you get those two screws in, you want to close the screen. Okay. All right, once you get the screen closed, loosen up the two screws a little bit. And then this way you can actually like adjust the screen. So I like to go to the corners like this with my fingers. I don't know if you can see it like that on both sides. Okay, and basically just do that to align it. Okay, once you get it aligned, you can tighten down the screw, both screws again. All right, this will just keep it from moving around. Okay, and then since this side doesn't really have anything, I like to start here with the red thread locker. Okay, again, the thread locker is good so that the screws don't come loose. So I'll take the screw, add a little of this thread locker. Usually they use blue, but the blue stuff usually doesn't hold that strong, so I like to use the red one. Okay, and then just put the screw in. Okay, just like that. Tighten it down. All right, and we want to do this for all the screws. So get some more, put it on the other screw. Okay, get those two. All right, we'll take this screw back out. Okay, add the thread locker to that one since we didn't put it in the beginning. Okay, and tighten that in place. All right, we can actually reconnect the LCD connector first. So for this, you want the pins facing up. So on the connector, there's like gold pins. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can even zoom in and show that. Oh, the tape is coming out. Okay. So here, you can see this connector. It has the gold pins on this side. I don't know if it's visible enough, but there you can see. On the other side, it's like black plastic. So you want the gold pins facing up. Okay. Tape is rolling up. Let me throw that tape away, actually. Okay. All right, so you got the corner here. You want to make sure the gold pins are facing up when you plug it in. Okay. So same way we took it out, you have the metal bar pointed up. Then you can use that to guide it. So pull the connector back and then slide it back in, and then use this to kind of pull it in place. Once you get that in place, you can use the little corners here if you want to try and pull it more, but don't pull too hard. Just make sure it's in, and then you can put that little latch down. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and do the antennas. Let me zoom back out. So this part can be a little tricky. You have to get this in the right way. I like to also use the old screen to look at it just to see which way it was going. So here you can see the connector. Oops. Here you can see this is supposed to go to these two hinge screws. So I do have to take that one hinge screw out. What I'm going to do is grab the other hinge screw. Okay. That's not going to be using the wireless antenna bracket. And I'll add the thread locker. And we'll put that screw in there. Okay. Just like that. All right. Make sure it's tight. Then we'll remove the screw that doesn't need to be in there. Okay. we'll take it out. All right. So now we got the iSight camera and we got the webcam cables. Okay. So the webcam cables, you want it to go over like this, and then it's not really reaching right. Here we go. Come on. So it's supposed to go over like this and then like that, but for some reason it's not. Let me put one of these screws in loosely first, because this one actually reaches like that. Okay, and then you can use that as a pivot point to help pull the rest. This antenna, they kind of made it a little short. Okay. All right, so then we'll get the other screw. We'll use that to help pivot it and pull it in place. All right, and then I'll tighten this down. So we'll tighten, excuse me, we'll tighten both of these down, just like that, and I'll add the thread locker after, but for now, just want to get it in place properly. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now what we're gonna do, okay. So now that I got both these screws tightened in place, it's holding itself, so I'm gonna take one screw out at a time, add the thread locker. Okay. Just like that. I'll put this screw in. Okay. Tighten it down. Take the other screw back out. Alright. Add the thread locker back in as well here. Alright, tighten it down. Oh, I think a customer's outside. Okay, so anyways, grab this cable. You want to have it route through that little slot like it was in before. Okay, again, you want the pins facing upwards. And then you can push this in. So with this, you kind of want to be careful. If you don't have, you can use like a toothpick or something. I use the screwdriver, but you want to be very careful not to scrape the board. And then you can push like the edge of it, this connector, in like this slowly, okay? Just walking it back and forth, left side, right side, left side, right side. Okay, so we finished getting all the hinge screws back in. So I'm going to put the T8 screwdriver away. We'll switch to the T5. Okay, once you get this in place, you can use the speaker, the edge of the speaker, to help guide the cable, and then just push that and tuck it underneath, okay? Just like that. Right, then we got this connector. What you want to do is actually get the fan in place first, okay? Because we are going to have to put the screw. Make sure that latches up. Guide the connector over, okay? You want to guide that into the slot. All right, just like that. Once it's in the slot, you can move the fan over and then try and push the side here to get the cable in. You'll see the white line meets with the edge of the connector, and then that's how you know you did it right. Okay, then you can connect this, but first I'm actually going to put the screw at the bottom there, just loosely, okay? So just like that. You don't want to tighten it all the way yet, and then we'll reconnect this cable here. Okay, just line it up, just like that, push it in. Alright, then we got the two screws up here. You want to get those in as well. One there, the one up in this corner. Again, you want to put the screws in loosely for now. Okay, so now what you want to do is make sure that the headphone jack is lined up, and then also the charge port. So usually you can use your charger, just make sure it's unplugged, and you can attach it and the magnet will pull it in place properly. But I'll just hold it by hand for now. Okay, so I just make sure the headphone jack, it has a little plastic piece that sticks out. Make sure that's going in the hole. Okay, and then just hold this in place. I like to use the USB port to kind of hold it in place. All right, then we can put the screw in. Make sure you're not clamping down any wires with the screws. Okay, all right, once you got that one screw in, you can put the speaker connector back in place. Just line it up and push it back down. Okay, just like that. And then it follows the USB port there. Okay, so we got that in. Now what you want to do is push the fan up towards the heatsink, and then you can tighten down the 3 screws all the way. Okay. Alright, now that we got all the screws tightened in place, usually I'll test the thing before I plug in the wireless antennas, just because they're kind of a pain to put back. But we'll put this cable back on. Okay, you just line it up. Make sure it's lined up. Alright, sorry about that. A customer called and then it just ended the recording. But anyways, you want to line this up. Okay, make sure it's aligned and then push it down. It's very important you have it lined up. You don't want to force it in. If it's not lined up, you can damage the connectors. Okay. Alright, next we're going to put the battery back in. So, of course, pretty straightforward. You just get it lined up, get the connector lined up first. While you're kind of holding the battery up, you can pull the connector in. I just pinch the 2 pieces together and then drop the battery in. And then I'll just put the 1 screw in the middle, just so that way the battery doesn't fall out while I'm working on it. Okay. Flip this over. And then we'll power it up, make sure that it works okay. Right, the fan is spinning. Holding down the option key, so that way it doesn't go to their boot screen and everything else. So here we go. I see the black light. Okay, and there we go. So here you can see the screen looks good. I'm going to peel this off all the way. Oops, they put a sticker on there to cover the MacBook logo. So you want to peel that off slowly. Sticker got stuck on there, so I'm going to have to peel that off. But, okay, let's see here. Let's peel off this sticker. Okay. If you get stuff stuck on there, you can use like a tiny bit of rubbing alcohol to get it off. So I'll take this. Never spray directly on the computer. I'll get like a napkin, and then I'll just get a tiny bit of rubbing alcohol on there. You don't want enough to form droplets or anything, okay? And then you just rub it out. There we go. Okay, so we got all that sticker residue off. Looks good. Let me see if I boot it up completely. Sorry, I don't want to show this on camera just in case. I don't know, some customers will be like, can you hide my usernames and stuff? So I'm just trying to avoid that. Alright, we're going to peel off the back as well. I'm going to stick this to the old screen. They want the old screen back as well, so I'll give them both pieces. Okay. Oh yeah, it does show everything, so I'm going to click the other. There we go. So there you go. You can see the whole screen is working well. Alright, and now we're just going to put back the wireless antennas. So we'll shut that down. Make sure it turns off already. Okay. I'm going to put back the rest of the battery screws since we already know it's working. Okay. Just like this. Get the long ones and put them back in the back side. Okay. Get the other one. Alright. Bottom screws. Okay. Alright, now we got all those screws in. We're going to put the antennas back in. So for this, it's a little bit tricky. I like to use the T8 screwdriver along with the T5. We do have to kind of tuck it in, so I don't know if I can show this very well, but first you want to get this cable to go around, okay? And then you want to pull this rubber piece so that I'm pulling this rubber piece up so that way I can get the cable underneath. And then after you get that underneath, you can kind of rotate it to get so that the vertical part is pointing up and down. and then you can push that into the slot. You probably won't be able to see this just because it's, I don't know how I would get a good camera angle of this without basically holding it in front of my face. But yeah, so rotate it. I don't know if you can see, but it goes into the slot there. Okay, then you just go all the way along, tucking it, pushing it down into that slot. Okay, once you get to this part where the other rubber piece is, it's a little difficult. You kind of have to hold the rubber piece out of the way again and then push. So what I do is I hold one side down so it stays in the slot, and then I use the other one to kind of push this cable, and then when you push it, it should go underneath, okay? Underneath the rubber piece, just like that. And then just go along, make sure to follow the cable, pushing it, and then you kind of have to route it around the screw hole, okay? Just like that. All right, and then keep going along, tucking it down, just like this. Hopefully you can actually see, oops, sorry. And you just keep going along and tucking it down into those little grooves. And then go around this last screw hole here. This part can be a little tricky because the two wires, there we go. Okay, and then the shorter one I think goes on the first tab. Doesn't really matter as long as you can reach both the antenna sockets on the card. Alright, so I'm going to flip this back over, and the wireless antenna is here. Okay, so you want to just get them lined up. Oh yeah, that's not going to reach. I think I have to put the longer one in the first slot. Okay, so put the longer one in the slot, the first slot, and then the shorter one in the other. There we go. Now it actually reaches. Sorry, that probably went out of view, but yep. Alright, so now that we got that, the shorter one's in the furthest slot, then you just get the connector, line it up. Okay, make sure it's aligned. When it's aligned, if you rub your fingernail over the top, it won't move around, and then you just push it down. Okay, same thing with the other one. Get it lined up. Can be a little bit tricky. Alright, get that lined up. Alright, and then push it down. There we go. So we got everything back together. All we need to do now is put the cover back on, put the screws in, and we're good to go. So make sure everything's connected. You got this, you got the eyesight camera underneath, and then the other power cable there, the speaker connector, alright, the microphone, and then the two wireless antennas. Alright, so let's put this cover back on, snap the middle back in place. Alright, and then we'll switch back to the Pentalobe 1.2 screwdriver, and then put all the bottom screws back in place. Okay, just like this. Okay. Alright, I mean, you get the idea. I'm just putting screws back in. So hopefully this video helped you guys. If it did, please like and subscribe, because that'll help others find these videos. It'll also help me. Thank you for watching. If you want, you're welcome to stay and watch me put in the rest of the screws. But that's pretty much all there is to it. My other videos show how to do a complete disassembly. I'm pretty sure I've done a few where I take the speakers out. I've also taken the SSD out and everything. But this one I kind of had to do quick to get back to my customer. And also, if you take out the speakers, the adhesive kind of gets all weird. So I didn't want to do extra steps I didn't need to. The RAM isn't upgradable on this, but the SSD is. If you get an aftermarket one, make sure you can use an adapter and put M.2 SSDs. Excuse me. But other than that, if you were to get like another SSD, they have other brands. Though I do tend to find the other brands of like Apple or M.2 SSDs, they go bad pretty quick. So I would either go with the M.2 route, though some of them have like issues where the computer doesn't go to sleep properly. So If you can, probably stick with the Apple ones or find an adapter that doesn't cause that issue. I don't know. I've seen online some people said there's adapters that don't cause that issue. But anyways, that's all there is to it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.